I hope you got your shitting pants on.
Because you are about to shit your pants.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
1 minute. Someone's keying their microphone. Okay, standby for systems. Okay, Sarge. Okay, you're cutting out. Someone's keying their mic. Let's get off the test frequency. Let's put it another 30 seconds. Nice and round. Roger. And 008, hold us heading.
T-52 cameras are on.
Winds are okay. Sarge. Westerly at about 10 knots. Coming on. I'm indicating 004. How does that look? Looks good. Sarge. All systems are okay here. The winds are westerly at 10 knots. Okay. This is NASA 1 calling 10 seconds now. 10 seconds. Roger. 0, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It looks good at NASA 1. Roger. BCS arm switch is on. Okay, Victor. Landing rocket arm switch is on. Here comes the throttle. Starting breakers in. We have separation. Inboard and outboard are on. We're coming forward with the side stick. Looks good. I've got a blowout. Neighbor 3. Get your pitch to 0. Pitches out. You hold altitude. Correction. Alpha 1 is off track. Flight breathe emergency. Flight calling. You hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking. Michael Sargent, photographer.
A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic
Photographer. Michael Sargent.
will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Big Picture. I am Michael Sargent. I am your host. We're really going to get into this today. So tell me what's up. What's going on? You know what? I don't think we're going to do too much talking about politics today. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I have some photography news for you all today. So I kind of feel that when we talk about photography, it's a better show. But then again, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks but me because I'm the one doing the show. Does that make sense? All right. So super great. All right. So that opening. Years ago, I did something just screwing around called the Bionic Photographer, and it was kind of fun. And it came, after I had to have some knee surgery done, and it wasn't a lot of fun. It took me quite a while to recover from that, but I did. And things were good. Let's put it that way. Very good. So, I got looking at this and I said, boy, I really did a crappy job on the original mix of that. But, I didn't know too much about audio mixing. I still don't, but I get by. So I decided that I was going to remix that and open it up. And one of the things that's significant with that is, the crash that you hear. Well, that crash just comes from life. I guess that's why it sticks with me. Plus, I used to love the $6 Million Man when I was a kid. I thought that was just badass show, when I was a little boy. So, it's kind of wild because, I want to get back to this crash part of it. Everybody in life has to deal with ups and downs and, like I said, anybody who knows me, knows my background, knows my history, knows the downsides or the things that have really changed my life. Okay? So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun for me to do and put together. Maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't. Who knows? But I have some news for you all. A lot of news for you all. It's actually photography news. So let me drop this in here, and I got some stories to tell you. Some local, some abroad, and I'm going to close off my news section with not really a special guest, but something I learned this week that I never knew before. Okay, so give me 1 second, and I will begin this monster. Okay, here's a few things in photo news that you will either find interesting or not. First thing, WGRZ, Channel 2 in Buffalo, New York, aired a story earlier this week about a Hillsborough couple who shares their viral family photos. And basically what happened here is Pam and Dave Zering posted photos they received from a professional family photo shoot, and they turned out interesting. So the story here leads into when a family doesn't, when a photo shoot doesn't end up quite like you imagine, all you can really do is have a good laugh and share the pictures to social media, of course. So Friday afternoon, Pam and Dave Zering posted photos they received from a professional family shoot that was taken back in May of 2017 in Forest Park. They turned out interesting. Pam had put on social media, "Okay, this is not a joke. We paid a photographer who claimed to be a professional $250 for a family photo shoot." And she posted the pictures and says, "Please see these for real photos she delivered to us." She said the shadows were really bad on the beautiful, clear, sunny day, and that her professor never taught her to retouch photos. She also encourages people to share them, and she says, "I have literally not laughed this hard in years. You can't make this stuff up. Again, this is not a joke. Final product." Well, the faces kind of look like cartoon characters, and no definition, anything. I mean, they're terrible and they're funny. So, let me give you the
A
the
photo
story.
shoot didn't quite go as planned for a Hillsborough family.
Now they can't help but laugh, and millions are laughing along with them.
We just couldn't believe what we saw when we opened up our final product. We look like cartoon characters, and the boys look like really cute cartoon characters, but not all of us look like cute cartoon characters.
Pam and Dave Zering scheduled a photo shoot with a student back in May of 2017. The pictures, you can see, they're almost unrecognizable. The photographer says the shadows were really bad, and her professor never taught her how to retouch photos. The Zarings weren't mad. They thought it was too funny not to share it. And since then, hundreds of thousands of people have liked, laughed, and shared their photos on Facebook.
I had no wrinkles. I was happy.
I have been compared to Larry the Lobster and several other non-flattering comparisons.
Thumb with a face drawn on it.
A thumb with a face drawn on it.
Well, the Zarings say they're enjoying their 15 minutes of viral fame. They say they're not trying to embarrass the photographer. They're glad it cheered people up and made them smile.
Oh, no, that professor is under the bus. She drove right over him with that one. Let's get to Craig.
So, anyway, with that being said, I was very, I'd like to know who the photographer was, and I'd like to know who the professor was that, instructed this said, professional photographer. It's really kind of a joke, and if you have an opportunity to get on Facebook and take a look at these, I think you're really going to get kind of a kick out of it, because the images were terrible. So, in other photography news, there is a story out of, I believe it's Ohio, and the story is known as fat shaming. Now, I'm a good sized guy. Okay? All right, let's just say it. I'm fat. And this story basically, this has an interesting twist. There's a bride that slams the photographer for fat shaming. Her and her fiance, they were photoshopped, and apparently it made them look 30 pounds thinner. So Katie Leipold said the photographer offensively edited the engagement shoots to look slimmer, and now she refuses to refund them. So to further dive into this, this Katie Leipold said her romantic images with fiancé John Kistler were edited to make them look 30 pounds lighter, and then a nasty rant was posted online about them. So, like I said, these guys were out of Ohio, and Katie says that she forked out $600 for a package from a photographer by the name of Linda Silvestri. She is from Tower Photography that included the engagement shots. So, the shoot, evidently, according to Katie, went fine. When the couple got the pictures back, they noticed Linda not only blurred out part of the shots, but also made them look slimmer. She confessed to News 5 in Cleveland, "We didn't really need the engagement session, but it was in the package, so we did it." She actually photoshopped one picture of us skinnier. She probably took like 30 pounds off each of us. So, being disgruntled, Katie contacted the photographer, Linda, with her concerns and relayed how she was hurt that her pictures weren't considered good enough as they were. However, Linda, the photographer, offered to cancel the contract, which included the wedding day, but insisted on keeping the $150 deposit. That's generally a booking fee, for the time in reserve. But apparently the ordeal didn't end up there, for the engaged couple. On Facebook, there is a group called the Northeast Ohio Wedding Professionals. And Linda, the photographer, had uploaded an offensive post about this couple and her experience with them. This is where, I don't want to say a line was crossed, but I guess maybe this Linda Stillerman Silvestri, she's probably quite frustrated. So we all do things out of frustration sometimes, but this one's interesting. It's been removed off Facebook now, but here's what was said. And people wonder why I have scaled back on my photography business. Last week, I did an engagement session for a morbidly obese couple. She's saying that they are fat. Okay? Just from the way they were picky about certain things during the session, I knew that they were going to be a PITA. For those of you who don't know, PITA is pain in the ass. First off, she goes on to say, first of all, their 4 unruly dogs had to be in the pic next to the lake, of course, which, of course, had ducks. Ugh. So this photographer obviously doesn't like ducks. I like ducks. There's nothing wrong with ducks. Ducks are kind of cool, especially when they're in a pond and they start splashing. They're kind of cool. The photographer then goes on to say, then their truck had to be in the pics. Of course, it was parked in the direct sun because there was no shade anywhere to be found. It had disaster written all over it. She loved the preview. She must have showed her the preview within the camera, on the LCD screen. But she goes on to say she loved the preview, then picked apart the images once she got them. Even though the contract says they get delivered on a disc, she then asked for a jump drive. No problem. I simply sent her a message and offered to avoid the contract for the wedding since she only liked 25% of the 110 images I delivered. I told her I just wanted her to be happy with her wedding images. Problem solved. Nope. I forgot to remove the grass and mud stains from his pants. And of course, they didn't like the lighting in the truck pics, even though I told them they were squinting. I wish whomever ends up with these two good luck. It is extremely difficult to get Pinterest-worthy lovey-dovey pics when people can't even get their heads close to each other. Apparently the bellies must have prevented that from happening. First pic, she was upset I gave her a chin tuck. Second pic was as close as their heads can get without straining. Oh yeah, she left me a 2-star review because I wouldn't refund their $150 for a 2-hour session. I would rather have the bad review than deal with her any further. So this couple saw the uploaded rant, which has since been deleted. It was pretty brutal. First off, let me give you my take. Shooting in direct sun or at high noon is a pain in the ass. It's not easy. I've done it at weddings, and oftentimes you have to use a filter or really be able to manipulate the camera or know how to manipulate the camera to kind of compensate for that harsh lighting. The other thing that's always helpful is if you have an assistant, have your assistant hold the diffuser above them in some way, shape, or form to kind of diffuse that hard sunlight, cast a little bit more shadow. That would be the first suggestion I would make. The photographer. All right, listen. I'm looking at a picture of the couple now. Yeah, they're big people. Okay? But were they fat shamed? I guess after the rant, you could consider that. Fat shaming to me is it's I don't want to call it funny, but as a fat guy, I've taken my fair share of ribbing over the years, and could it be considered offensive? I don't know. That's not really the point of this. These people are big, and I got to criticize the photographer here a little bit because from what I'm seeing, it would have been very easy, for me to get a lovey-dovey picture of the two of them. They're both, they're nice-looking people. As far as mud and grass stain on the guy's pants, well, I'm not actually seeing that. There's not a photograph that shows that, but, okay, don't photograph his pants. Do the shots kind of tight. And let's just say this. Your job as a photographer is to take a flattering photograph of these people. If you're not able to create that, then maybe you shouldn't be a photographer. Okay? That's the reality of it. The photographer, in a sense, yes, some people are pains in the ass. All right? But they're the consumer. They know what they want. It's your job to deliver that. If you can't deliver that, whose fault is that? Now, I know this much. When I do headshots, I work, with people, and there is coaching that's involved. You have to get your subject to a point where you're able to take a good photograph. That's on the photographer. The photographer has to do that work. It's not just as simple as picking up a camera and snapping a photo and say, here you go, now pay me. All right? It doesn't work that way. People are coming to professional photographers because they want a certain look. You know, they want a nice photograph. They don't want just a snapshot. This is the problem with photographers today. There's really good photographers that have great personalities and put people at ease, and they get really good images. There are other photographers that don't have a clue on how to work with people. You have to work with people. You have to coach them to get a good image. Sometimes it's easier than others, and sometimes it takes more than one session. But if a person is coming to you, first off, they've seen some of your work, and they like what you do. You have to bring your game every time when you work with people. You'll start off and get some cool images. Coach them to a point where you're able to get the type of photographs they're going to want to see. Bad call on the photographer. So, Linda Stillerman Silvestri, Northeast Ohio wedding photographer. You fucked this up. It's that simple. That's on you. Back to the drawing board. Back to the lab again. Okay? And the last story I have this week related to photography is, Daryl from The Walking Dead? He's a pretty cool actor, right? He also does, Ride with Norman Reedus. Okay, I've never seen this show. I've seen The Walking Dead. But Norman Reedus is, he fancies himself as a photographer too, which, apparently he's somewhat accomplished in it. So I'm going to read you a little story here. It says, for some photographers, the phrase run and gun has a negative connotation. But when you're Norman Reedus, that descriptor takes on a much preferred meaning. One that is it flatters his style and his compliment to his ability to sense a moment. All right, Reedus, he's most recognized for his acting work on the television series The Walking Dead and Ride with Norman Reedus. But first and foremost, he is always an artist, a sculptor, a director, an accomplished photographer, and he's also authored a photo book, The Sun's Coming Up Like a Big Bald Head. I'm going to have to pick up a copy of that. I think that might be an interesting read. But see what he did here is B&H Photo, also does a podcast. And Norman Reedus was a guest on this. So the story here goes on to say, with the travel demands of working on films and television, Reedus photography becomes a way to engage with his locations and document his adventures, but through the eyes of an artist. His work is more than just famous locales and behind-the-scenes fun. He brings a personal vision, humorous and dark, to images he captures and does with an experimenter's touch. Using a variety of camera and styles, we talk with Reedus about his start in photography, his stylistic approach, gear choices, and what he has learned from his time in front of the camera that helps with his work behind one. However, the story goes on to say, with a guest like Reedus, generous with his times and tales, you let the conversation flow, and we discuss his serious ride the influence of Laurie Anderson, fan selfies, his love of horror films, and a range of other topics. Tom Waits, who hosts this podcast, had said, I like beautiful medleys telling me terrible things. They kept popping into my head. I'm not sure this line best reflects Reedus' work, but I'm sure there is a Tom Waits line that does. He says that the episode was a real treat for us at the B&H Photography Podcast, and we hope that you feel the same in the listening. So, I'm taking a look at some of Reedus's photography here, and, it's pretty cool. It's dark. One image that really stands out to me that he took is of a dead raccoon in the middle of a road, kind of with his head laying, on the paint stripe line. It's not technically a great photo, but it's an interesting photograph, and I think it's pretty cool. So, hey, Daryl, nice job. Pick up that crossbow, kill some walkers, dude. You're awesome. Okay? So, that's what I've got this week, for photography news, and it's kind of refreshing to be able to talk a little bit about this because that's really what I like to talk about in the first place. However, oftentimes is the case, there's too much going on in the political world, and so far I've been able to talk about photography stories for over 20 minutes on this episode. So I'm pretty excited about that. The next thing we're going to get into here is the great shithole controversy that I'm finding just absolutely hilarious. It's hilarious. So have a listen to this. This is a news story from CBC News. Just Trump.
Isn't denying it. For now, Donald Trump isn't talking about it, but plenty of others have something to say about Donald Trump's crude remarks about immigrants. Reports say the headline-making remarks happened during a meeting on immigration in the Oval Office. As you can see, some newspapers are printing the quote, others keeping it out of the bold print. A kind of split is happening, too, with television stations and networks, some suggesting parents hit the mute button if children are watching, too. So we want to let you know Paul Hunter does say Trump's remark. To begin our coverage, here he is.
When talk turned to Haiti and countries in Africa at that meeting, he apparently said, this is a quote, "Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?" You can't dance around it. Those are the words of the President of the United States. It brings back to the fore the suggestion he is not only contemptuous but racist. He apparently suggested he prefer immigrants from places like Norway. The White House has not denied these words. In fact, here's what a Deputy White House press secretary said. Certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people. Reaction has been swift and blunt. A Republican lawmaker, a daughter of Haitian immigrants, called it unkind, divisive, elitist, and flying in the face of our nation's values.
Paul Hunter in Washington. As it happens, today is the 8th anniversary of the Haitian earthquake, the disaster that led to Haitians being given special status in the U.S. Trump's move to end that status has sent thousands of Haitians across our border last year. Now, Haiti's ambassador to the U.S. says Haiti vehemently condemns Trump's remarks. He did so in a report on PBS, calling them based on stereotypes and adding, quote, either the president has been misinformed or he is miseducated. The Haitian government is reportedly formally summoning a U.S. official to explain what the president said. The White House isn't denying.
So, with all that being said, okay, think about this for a second. Donald Trump calls these countries shitholes. Then you go online and then you look at photos from these countries. And what you see is garbage all over the place. Lots and lots of garbage all over the place. And then people living in poverty. Now, who's that on? Is that on the United States? Are we supposed to be the moral compass of the world and fix the world's problems? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that it's kind of a joke that everybody's outraged over this. It really is. Why should everybody be enraged over the president speaking basically what's the truth? He is bold. He is brash. He does say a lot of things. But we talk, at the end of the story, they talked about, 8 years after the earthquake, the tsunami and all this other stuff. And it's funny. The Clinton Foundation, raised all this money to help Haiti. Did they ever really help Haiti? No. That should be where your outrage is. How come nobody is throwing a fit about that? And then the topic of, immigration. The government is shutting down because the Democrats support the dreamers and not the American people. This is so fucked up. There was kind of a question out there that said, well, if the government shuts down, will there be a purge? The movie The Purge. People go out and kill people for whatever reason. I've never seen it. Don't care to see it. But does Washington need to be purged? Senator Chuck Schumer, this dickhead from New York, all fingers are pointing to him, that he's the one that shut the government down. This is just insane. You people don't play nice. You really don't. Was Trump's comments over the top? Yeah, but I don't think he's not telling the truth. It's really crazy. Anyway, maybe we can talk more about this next week, but I wanted you to hear that story. And I wanted to, have a say on it, but the Haitian ambassador saying he's either miseducated or misinformed. Is he really? Is he really? Here's a guy that's got Democrats on record right now stating that they care more about illegal immigrants in the United States than they do about the American people. It's on record. It's on record. I wouldn't say he's miseducated or misinformed. I would say he's very tactical. He's going to say things that stir up the pot. Why? I think our president is much like me. He's tired of being taken advantage of by the elitist politicians who feel that we, the people, our tax dollars, and ourselves, are here to serve them. There was a revolution or something years ago over some shit like this, right? What did they call it? We'll talk about that more next week. All right, that's all the time I got for this week. We kind of ran over a little bit, but then again, who cares? Every piece of content in here is it was worth it. All right, people. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the opening segment, because I sure as hell did. And let's see what we can talk about next week. You're listening to The Big Picture. I am Michael Sargent. I'm out.
Oh, even Stink would say that stinks.